news and great conversation. A civic media station.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen.
Oh, you started the stream already?
Oops.
Wow. Why you start the stream so early? Now, what, fast forward? That's fine.
Well, sorry about that. Folks, if you are tuning in to the Todd Allbaugh show via the replay.
You have 5 minutes yet.
Yeah.
6, actually. So fast forward 6 minutes.
The opening times to pay
Otherwise, you're just going to hear us yuck around.
respects beyond midnight tonight.
But thanks for being here at our new time slot. 2:06. We managed to find the afternoon.
Feels weird. It feels wrong.
But it feels wrong. I'm not sure it feels wrong, but it feels odd. Yes. Feels very weird. But we persevere. Onward and upward. As Floyd Blackmore, the late great Floyd Blackmore was fond of saying. Onward and upward. Onward and upward. Great professor. Peculiar, but a great professor and a great guy. We're all a little peculiar, including me.
The complete Civic Media lineup
As Summers will tell you.
.us or the Civic Media app.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The state Senate has approved an incentive package to keep Thermo Fisher Scientific in Middleton. According to reporting from the State Journal, essentially lawmakers are creating an exception to the law, allowing the city of Middleton to offer bigger tax breaks to the company. The bill passed in the Senate yesterday with flying colors, 32-1. Thermo Fisher employs 1,800 people, and other states are trying to lure them away from Wisconsin. Lawmakers hope this will get them to stay.
For those watching on the stream, I'll give you something to talk about. Talk amongst yourselves. So I'm going to, because we're on at 2 o'clock, you understand. We're here at 2 o'clock. And so I'm looking at all the people we're up against. So, for instance, one of the channels has the big Ben Brust show, which I'm a big Ben Brust fan. He was on the 2014-2015 Final Four teams. And he's got a sports show on a channel, very popular. Other people, lots of other, and I'm just looking and thinking, okay, how do we make people, not make, but how do we attract people that are watching these shows? Because I think some of these shows are fine shows. Could we simulcast them, Summers? Could we have their shows like behind the screen on our show? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. I mean, physically, could we do
Sure,
it?
we could.
Absolutely.
We could. Would I be on the air anymore after that? Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. But we could do it. But we won't. It's a tough spot to be in, you understand, because there's so much talent this time of day. But have no fear. We have, thank goodness, beyond me, we have other people that are much more talented. Trygve Olsen on the program today, making the change into the later hour. Senior advisor of the Lincoln Project, Joe Zepecki. How about that? The leading candidate to run for chair of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin, Joe Zepecki. What's worse today, shaving or flossing? Now, I think it's fair to say you don't necessarily do those things in the same spot. Is that fair to say, Summers?
Yes.
Yes, all right. And Matt Solomon making a return back to the program from crack.com on Saturday Night Live at 50 years old.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute since Solomon's been on. Is Zepecki, he's been on the show a long time ago or no? Or he's never been on?
I think I might be getting it confused because he's been on a lot of other shows that I've produced for.
If he hasn't been on the show, I apologize.
I think he has.
I thought he was on early on, maybe. Well, or maybe when our old friend Kristen Bry was with us down in Milwaukee, we did some political things down there. I know because he was part of the panel in Milwaukee for the Republican debate.
So you've at least been on the air together, if nothing else.
Yes. I'm not sure he's been on this program proper, but he's been on something we've done together.
I saw him in person for the first time recently.
A very nice man.
Yeah.
He was over at the Susan Crawford election night or watch party and on the panels we did over there.
He had stopped over here for a little bit that day,
oh, really?
Which is when I saw him.
For Up North News Radio. Now, mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News Radio.
So they say.
Is it a liquid power, or is it gel, or is it how is that Up North News power delivered.
Oh, they mulch it and burn it.
Lots of CO2 going into the air if they're doing that.
No,
I
Mornings
have a
with Pat
feeling-
Kreitlow is a green powered
Yes,
show.
I would think so. I would think
No,
so.
his talent shines so brightly. They just put a bunch of solar panels around him as he's doing the show, and it powers itself.
That's right.
But day one is just one day.
See, I wish we were doing the show now live, because this was a pretty good open. Unprepared, but it was okay.
Now we just have to repeat that exactly
Well, no,
in 30 seconds.
Oh, 30. Look at that. Time flew by. All right, here we go, everybody.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with our producer and engineer, the outstanding Mr. Zommers, on the board. It is now 6 past the hour of 2 o'clock on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is
Hump Day.
Look at that, Zommers. Not only did I get the time right, the camel made it as well.
Although he did send me a strongly worded email.
Oh, really?
He was not informed of the time change, and he was waiting here for an hour, and
for
he got
heaven's
really
sakes.
hungry. He got hangry. I mean, but we've calmed the camel down.
All right. Well, once you get over the hump, everything is downhill.
Exactly.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you along. It is from the world headquarters of Civic Media in downtown Madison, partly sunny skies. Great to be with you here on a Wednesday, our brand new time slot. If you normally tune in for the Maggie Dawn Show, have no fear. She is just 2 hours later now, from 4 until 6. Maggie will follow us. We were back-to-back before, but we were noon to 2, and then Maggie was 2 to 4, and now we're 2 to 4, and Maggie's 4 to 6. And our friend Pete Schwaba at Nightlight, he stays exactly where he was at 6 o'clock, 6 until 8, the great show Pete Schwaba, or the Nightlight with Pete Schwaba and Conrad, their great producer. So glad to have you here. Glad, hope you made it here. If this time doesn't work for you, you could always go to the podcast or Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and watch it tape delayed or on demand. What are they? Is it on demand? Is that the proper way to say it?
I guess so.
All right. Tom Hartman comes on now before us, and then from 11 to 2. And then before Tom Hartman is our friend and colleague, Jay Matnair and Greg Bach with Matnair on Air. And then before that, 6 until 9, is the Pat Kreitlow Show. It's mornings with Pat Kreitlow. So Kreitlow is 6 to 9, then Matnair on Air from 9 until 11, Hartman, then us, then Maggie, then Pete.
Indeed, that's
And
the new
listen,
lineup.
I listened to some of the, we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Mark Pocan, Congressman Mark Pocan, Democrat from Madison, was on the Tom Hartman show today. So I listened to about an hour and a half of Hartman. Here's my big takeaway from the Tom Hartman show. I had no idea that liberals were so much into cryptocurrency.
Dude, yep. I'll leave it at that.
There are a lot of ads for cryptocurrency.
New AI-powered cryptocurrency investment plan.
Look, you can recite it. So we're going to talk about some of the things that that Hartman and Congressman Pocan were discussing a little bit later. We have a big lineup for you today at hour number 2 at 3:35. Matt Solomon. Been a minute since Solomon's been on the show. He is from cracked.com, great publication online. Matt is going to grade Saturday Night Live, the iconic NBC show, at 50. He has written a column on this, looking back at the past 50 years of SNL and how the 50th season is holding up. So Solomon's in at 3:35 with that. At 3:06, What's Worse, where we ask you the not so important question of the day, but your chance to weigh in. Today's category, shaving or flossing? You probably don't do that in the same spot. But anyway,
I hope not.
shaving or flossing. We'll talk about that in hour number 2. And then it's 2:35 this hour, so less than a half an hour. Joe Zepecki is going to be on the program. He is founder of Zepecki Communications, longtime Democratic political strategist, communication, marketing guy. And he is now running for the chairmanship of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. Ben Wickler chose not to run again. So there's an open election. Talk to Zepecki. Really interested. Here's a guy that I really respect. I don't belong to any political party, so I've got no dog in the race, no vote. But it seems to me Zepecki is the kind of guy that you want in these times. But we'll talk to him and ask him some questions. But right now, joining us via StreamYard from the nation's capital, you know him, you love him. If you joined us in our old time slot at noon, Trygve Olsen, native of River Falls, former Republican like myself, now a senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, and here joining us in the mid-afternoon at 2 o'clock, which is good news for Trygve because he gets up at about 1:30. Trygve Olsen, how are you?
Having the worst day technical-wise.
Well, I love the fact
Technically,
watching on the
my
stream,
technology.
Trygve has positioned the microphone directly in front of his face, so it kind of looks like that character from the old Home Improvement show where all we can see is his head.
Dude, if you knew what a mess. I got a new monitor. It's in the wrong place. They sent me this new camera for doing like LP stuff. It's robotic, and I can't figure out how to get the remote to work so I can get myself centered here. And it's not a very good day.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I appreciate you being here. I understand they put one of those robotic cameras in our studio a while back, supposed to follow you around. And
we turned that off.
We basically had to break it because it just didn't work. So
we didn't have to break it. We just turned off the following.
Oh, we turned it off the following? The AI portion.
Yes.
All right.
You know, the one thing I didn't check, there may not be batteries in this remote. There you have it. They shipped it without batteries.
They shipped it without
That would be why the remote control wasn't working.
How dare they? How dare they?
God, I'm becoming like kids, Todd. Anyway, I was just going to announce I'm formally here in my role as a Green Bay owner of the Green Bay Packers.
Well, I was going to say, for people listening to our old time slot, usually we would wait until the last 2, 3, 4 minutes of our hour together to talk about the Packers or something sports related. Trygve is an owner of the Green Bay Packers, but here now, why don't we just start out with the Packers proper, because the big draft kicks off tomorrow in Green Bay. Round 1, very excited about this. Our sports reporter Mike Clemens is going to be giving reports from up in Green Bay. But as a Green Bay owner, Trygve, what are your thoughts about the draft?
Well, there's part of me that would like to see him trade the pick just because there's going to be all those people that are showing up there. But seems like your settings chose your new camera for audio instead of
apparently your microphone's a little, I don't know, muted or something. I don't know.
Oh, is my microphone screwed up? Do I need to get closer to it?
We can wait until
we'll figure that out.
We'll worry about that in about 5 minutes because our breaks now are at 20 after. So
okay, I got it.
There now
it's set to my headphones.
You had
yes,
all this new
it's all this.
technology,
I told you I'm having a bad day technology wise. I hope the Green Bay Packers have a better day on the draft. How is that for a pivot? I kind of hope they take the receiver. I think he's from Arizona, but to be honest. I don't have an informed opinion on the draft, and I think most of these people talking about the draft are just trying to make money off it. Yeah. If I really knew anything, Todd, you know what I'd be? Brian Gutekunst. Right. And trust me, if I were smart enough to have his job, I would rather have his job than my job. Right. That'd be the greatest job in the world.
It seems like if you look at history, and my former boss Scott Klug was always fond of saying, Todd, if you want to know about someone's future performance, look at their past performance. I've found that to be true. Goody is not someone who's really. I don't think he's ever traded away the first 2 or 3 rounds to move up. He's always taken a player in round 1, 2, and 3. He seems a fairly conservative guy, and I don't think he's going to make a big splash just because it happens to be in Green Bay. I think he's going to stick with his strategy. That's just my take.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, the one year he did trade back a ways, and then he traded back up to get Alexander. I kind of think Gutekunst is one of these guys, whatever it takes to win, right? Like he's just, yeah, I don't know. And he certainly fleeced those fancy New Yorkers on the Aaron Rodgers deal. And those city slickers out in Las Vegas on the Devontae Adams trade.
Right.
Yeah, here's to UW Lacrosse. We may not have to ask what's cooking at Lacrosse because they're clearly cooking up good NFL GMs.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. We had Joseph Pecky at the bottom of the hour, Trigby. Really looking forward to this discussion with him, learn a little bit more about him, about his vision for the Wisconsin Democratic Party and his campaign to be the new chair after Ben Wickler has decided not to run for another term. So I want to talk about some of the national things before we get to Pecky at the bottom of the hour. I want to get your take on a couple of things, Trigby. And for those that don't know, Trigby spent a lot of time in D.C. working for guys like John McCain and also Mitch McConnell and others, has worked on presidential campaigns. And for those that might not know in this time slot, the only person that I know who has been banned from Russia personally by Vladimir Putin for his work against autocracies and for democracy in Eastern Europe. I want to get your take on this, Trigby, on this whole Pete Hegseth thing going on, the Signal Gate stuff, because now there's been a new Signal Gate on a personal phone that, and again, Hegseth or the Trump folks don't deny any of this stuff, that he's talking about military operations on a non-secured personal phone. So far, Trump is standing with him, but finally now we have a Republican, Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska in the House of Representatives, was on Jake Tapper's show on CNN. Let's play a little bit of that. This is Congressman Bacon on Jake Tapper.
If this were your Secretary of Defense, what would you do?
Well, I wouldn't tolerate it. I would hold him accountable and I'd fire him. You can't put classified information, and I guarantee it, if you're talking about when you're launching aircraft to attack Yemen, and you do that 2 hours before the missions, that is classified. That's operational details that you want to protect. And it was just wrong to put that on an unclassified application and to send it to people who are not cleared or in the need to know. We would fire a second lieutenant for doing this. And so as a military guy, this is not a Republican view or a Democrat view. I think it's an American view that we protect our security, we protect our servicemen and women, because those details, if they would have got out early to the Houthis, could have endangered our airmen. And I guarantee you, Russia and China are all over the Secretary of Defense's cell phone, and they got hundreds of people focused on his phone and what he's putting on that, because he is like the top priority target for their signals collection. So what I want to see from the Secretary is to just be honest, admit you did wrong, take responsibility, and apologize, because that lets us know that you understand that was wrong. When he does not admit to it and tries to obfuscate, that further lowers his credibility on this. He's got to come clean and be honest and just take responsibility.
That's Congressman Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska, on Jake Tapper's show on CNN, calling for Hegseth to resign or be fired. Trivia, about a minute and a half left here before the first break. What's your take on this?
He was sizzling.
Right? Bacon was sizzling,
yeah. He's a former general, I think.
Yes, he is.
Although, as it comes to, he's in a marginal district. It's the University of Nebraska district, so it's Omaha. He has not really been a profile in courage. He barely won last time. Like, he's a little bit, but he's a credible guy. I mean, it's great that he's speaking out. I think he's speaking the truth, and I think he speaks from a place of caring. The truth of the matter is, you look at Hegseth and how he's been responding to this, everything is, I'm very disappointed in the leaker. We have to find the leaker. I don't know who's leaking this. And the irony is, the leaker is him.
Right.
Like, exactly. He can look in the mirror and find the guy who is leaking. Right. So I just think, just because he's on TV, these people who are on TV doesn't make him smart.
By the way, he redid the green room in the Defense Department. Now has a makeup chair and a makeup stylist for his Fox News hits. That's real. Back with Trigby Olson after this. It's the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network at our new time, Same host. Come on back.
Station 92.7 WMDX.
Hey, at the end of the day, everybody wants the same thing from their mattress. A good night's rest, am I right? It's not rocket science. You don't need a physics genius to make
I'm going to go
your
find some
futuristic
batteries.
space
I'll
bed.
be right
You
back.
just need someone to
Okay,
listen
sounds
to
good.
what you want and who knows the materials that will get you there. And you might even be surprised to learn that that someone could be living right next door. At Verlo, we're your friendly neighborhood mattress genius. American made, locally crafted. Welcome to Verlo.
Are you looking to kick up your nighttime entertainment? Good times await you at the Lazy Oaf Lounge, Madison's East Side place for friends and family to meet for fun and food. Test your knowledge with Monday trivia. Let your inner rock star out with Thursday karaoke, plus live music, and meet all your friends at the Lazy Oaf for the big game. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road in Madison. Follow them on Facebook or at lazyoaflounge.com.
I'm Dan Schaefer. Let's recombobulate. In recent months, Milwaukee health officials have uncovered significant lead hazards in city schools, mostly due to lead-based paint. Several schools have now been closed as the problem has been found to be more widespread. In late March, city officials formally requested help from the CDC, but in doing so, they learned that the CDC's entire lead program had been eliminated by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is a major problem. Children in the state's largest city are being exposed to lead poisoning at their schools, and the Trump administration is not only refusing to provide assistance, they are eliminating the entire lead program that would help in cases like this one. Now, state and local officials must step up to do something for these kids, since Trump and RFK Jr. are gutting federal support. Milwaukee's children deserve better.
Find all of Dan's
30
work
seconds
at
till
the
we're back.
recombobulation
Thank
area
you.
and on our website. It's
Sky rockets in flight, afternoon delight. Afternoon delight.
That's right. You joined Jordan Sommers and I for a nooner. Now you can join us for some afternoon tonight. Every afternoon now from 2 until 4, our new time slot. If you normally tune in and say, where the heck did Maggie Dawn show go? Have no fear. She's just going back a couple of hours. She'll be here at 4 o'clock now in drive time from 4 until 6. The great Maggie Dawn show every afternoon, followed by the great Pete Schwaba and Nightlight every evening from 6 until 8. But the one thing that stays the same, thank goodness, our friend Trygve Olsen, ongoing contributor native of River Falls, Wisconsin, senior advisor now at the Lincoln Project, like myself, a former Republican, joins us on Wednesdays to talk about a little politics, but also some Packers from time to time, and also what makes Wisconsin great. Jeff Perry, our ongoing contributor on Facebook, says, Todd, is it daylight saving time today? What's going on? No, Jeff. It's just a time change. We're in daylight saving time, but we're still changing show times. Trivia, going to have Joe Zepecki on at the bottom of the hour after our news update. Zepecki, of course, longtime Democratic political strategist, great marketing guy, founder of Zepecki Communications. He is running for the chairmanship of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin now that Ben Wickler is choosing not to run. So I want to get to a couple of national issues before Joe comes on at the bottom of the hour. 2 to 3 minutes here on each one of these. First of all, and I think for some people are going to say, what's the big deal here? And yesterday, Bill Owens, the longtime executive producer of the Sunday evening news program 60 Minutes on CBS, resigned, essentially under pressure. And there was a big meeting of CBS folks in a 60 Minute, including Leslie Stahl and Scott Pelley and Anderson Cooper and others, in which he also put out a memo to his colleagues at CBS and essentially said, look, with the world today And whether it's Sherry Redstone, the now owner yet of CBS Paramount, or this new merger they're trying to do, and of course CBS is signaling they're going to settle with Trump like ABC did for essentially no reason. They didn't do anything wrong. But now this guy, Bill Owens, who ran CBS or 60 Minutes, is saying, I don't feel I can do my job like I always have done because of pressure at the top. Is this anything, Trigby? You've dealt with autocracies. We've seen this in other places where the media starts getting intimidated. Should we make something out of this, or is this nothing?
No, it's kind of a big deal because the reality is one of the ways that these guys take control is by bullying the media and getting them to bend to their will through lawsuits or whatever means. And you know, it really is true. The best way to confront an autocrat or a bully is to stand up to the autocrat or the bully, and that's not what they're doing.
And you've literally written a book or your process, I think, of writing a book on this. But tell people about this. It's the 7 rules of dealing with autocrats, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's 7 rules dealing with autocrats. The one that's relevant here is always speak truth to power, and that's what CBS and 60 Minutes were doing. And in fact, the entire lawsuit was based on a lie. It was that they had somehow edited their interview with Kamala Harris, and that wasn't the case. And, you know, I mean, Trump's trying to shut them down. They're venerable, and I'm sure in Donald Trump's mind, you know, 60 Minutes is the preeminent news, which it kind of is, preeminent television news program of, you know, long format stories, and he's bullied them. And if he can, and it sends a bad precedent, because if he can bully CBS and 60 Minutes, you know, what's the person at the Eau Claire Leader Telegram think if he comes after them?
Right. Exactly. Speaking of papers, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, great paper here in the state of Wisconsin, story by Eva Wen today entitled What to Know About Recent Immigration Arrests in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Again, about 3 minutes here before our break. The large 30,000 view here now. A third person has been arrested by ICE in Wisconsin. The first 2 at the Milwaukee County Courthouse, this one in Ozaukee County Courthouse. These folks are going because they're trying to do it the quote-unquote right way. They're trying to get their papers in order, become citizens, at least permanent residents, and ICE is staking out these courthouses now and arresting people right here in Wisconsin. To me, Trigby, this all comes back. Our other colleagues here at Civic Media have talked about this. It's due process. And if folks aren't given due process, and they're guaranteed this in the Constitution, if that isn't upheld and adhered to, then none of us are really safe, regardless of whether we're American citizens or not. Speak to this again in about a minute and a half here, talking about what you've seen in other countries.
Well, I mean, the reality is, you know, they want people to live in fear. And what better way than the president can order that you pick up a bunch of people on the street and send them to a gulag in El Salvador. And then when the Supreme Court rules 9-zip against you, you say, oh, but we don't have a way to get them back. Right? Like, listen, Trump tweeted the other day, or Truth Social or whatever you do on there, that he doesn't have time for everybody to have a court hearing. Well, what a crock. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer was one of the most reprehensible people to ever transverse the planet. He got due process. He got a trial. Like, it's an imperfect system, but it's a lot better than the alternative of some guy in politics being able to decide who you know gets picked up and who doesn't.
I'm glad you brought up this Truth Social thing you tweeted out about, well, we don't have time for everybody to get a trial. He clearly does not understand the immigration or the legal system. As someone who handled immigration affairs for a former congressman in Wisconsin, what you're talking about here is going before an immigration court and having basically a hearing where the judge says, hey, are you here legally, illegally? You don't have an actual jury trial for every single one of these cases. It's just not how it works. And so it's just a bold-faced lie to gin people up, and it's disingenuous at best. Always genuine is Joe Zepecki. He is a candidate for the Democratic Party chair of Wisconsin. Come back and have a conversation with he and Trigby and myself. Stay tuned. News, weather, sports update. We're back after this on the Civic Media Radio Network.
92.7 WMDX.
Local radio for you and your community.
Joe Zapecki.
That's me. What's going on?
Thanks for being. I was talking to Zommers earlier. When you were part of this Republican presidential thing in Milwaukee last year, but have you ever been like on our show proper? I just can't remember.
I don't think so. I do a lot of civic media. I like to get around, but I don't think you and I have had the pleasure.
Well, the first question to me is, what the hell's wrong with Todd?
Well,
Why haven't we had you on before?
You know what they say, Todd. You never forget your first time, and I just wanted to make sure it was special.
Well, it will be. Have you met Trigby Olson before? Have you guys ever met?
He was on that panel.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was the two of us and
McCoshin
Rick Wilson.
Rick Wilson was there.
And Rick Wilson.
Yep, that's right.
True. How are you, Joe? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Although I can barely see you. You hide behind that mic.
Don't even get me going. I have had the worst tech day. They keep sending me crap. They sent me this Allbaugh camera thing because they thought what I was doing wasn't good, and it's a complete train wreck.
I didn't mean to strike a nerve.
You're lucky that you can
He's
even
having
see
a day.
There's no joke here about a face for radio hiding behind a microphone.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It's so screwed up.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And then the remote wasn't working because it didn't have batteries. Now it has batteries, but I don't have a verification code. So it's even stumped the Chat GPT machine. I'm still more interested in the fact that you get around, though, on the radio.
Look
Hi.
at that.
Hi, Mr. Todd.
How you doing?
Saying hi, Mr.
Hello.
He's asking how you're doing. We're not live on the radio for the moment, so.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Are you keeping your dad in line?
Are you keeping me in line?
I know.
All right,
I
get
know
off.
both you and your sister will. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the advantage of being 2 hours later now. Now the kids are home.
That's not an advantage, but.
Where are you, Tripke?
I'm in Arlington.
Got it.
Trigby, I know you've mentioned it before, but I don't remember it. One of our texters, using words I'm not going to repeat, is asking about the mask mounted on the wall behind you.
Oh, that mask is awesome. So it was featured in a New York Times article. Back in 2001, a group of Belarusian opposition activists were wearing those masks, and Lukashenko arrested them for mockery after they changed the law. Wow. So it was post factum. And when they went to trial, they said to the judge that they were goalie masks, not Lukashenko masks, and it must be Lukashenko who thought that he was crazy and looked like him. And they got off. And there was this whole article in the New York Times. They smuggled that out and gave it to me because I had helped them with it.
I remembered it was something like that, but I didn't remember the story. So. Cam and Appleton.
It's pretty cool.
There you go, Cam. Now you have your answer.
So, Todd, real quick, what's your listenership like? Have you managed to keep, some of those former Republicans listening to you, or do they think you've gone totally off the deep end?
I mean, I think we get a lot of folks that, I don't have any tangible big polling data or anything, just people that call or text in. But no, I think we get a lot of people from across the state who are, like Trigby and I, former Republicans. We also get, people on the progressive side that sometimes don't like all my takes, which is fine.
I can tell you, I play fantasy football with a bunch of guys who later went. I worked with them on a campaign long ago, Jim Harsdorf's campaign, but some of them went into Walker World. And whenever I trash Scott, I get calls.
The Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, 34 now, past the hour of 2 o'clock. odd for me to say here on our new time zone, our new time slot. It was still the same time zone, just a different time slot. The intro music there, Mr. Zomer, is from the Joe Zepecki Spotify playlist. Is that right?
Some Rage Against the Machine.
All right, very good, very good. Always appreciate that. He is our next guest, a longtime Democratic strategist and president and founder of Zepecki Communications and a candidate for the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. He joins us via StreamYard. Mr. Joe Zepecki with Trygve Olsen, the senior advisor at the Lincoln Project, joining from Arlington. Joe, thanks so much for being on. And what's it like now that you're an official candidate for chair?
I gotta say, I've worked on a lot of campaigns. I've worked with a lot of candidates, and I was right. It is different when it is your name that's going to be on a ballot. I don't know if Trygve's had the pleasure, but it's a little different, but it's a lot of fun. I'm getting around the state, talking to people all across Wisconsin, all across the Democratic coalition. To me, that is the only way to build a viable pro-democracy resistance against the Trump administration and a Democratic Party that is built to win elections next year and build power going forward for working families, for people who want to get the American dream for themselves. And the response has been overwhelming. We rolled out 20 public endorsers on day one. We've added another more than half dozen in the week since. And I haven't even been at it for a full week. Tomorrow will be 1 week in the race. So it's going great.
Wow, that's fantastic. You've been on a lot of programs across civic media. We were talking before we went on the air. I don't think you've ever been on our show proper, although you were on a panel with Trygve and some other folks about a year and a half ago down in Milwaukee. For the what the heck's the matter with Todd? Number one, not having you on sooner, but I'm glad you're here today. For those that might not know who you are, we're a statewide audience across 11 different stations all across the state. Tell folks a little bit about Joe Zepecki, where you grew up, a little bit about your history so far, and how you got into leadership or wanting to be in leadership in the Democratic Party of Wisconsin.
Yeah, born and raised in Southeast Wisconsin, graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I got the political bug early. My parents instilled in me very early on that those who have much must give back. And we were very fortunate and privileged. My dad worked in county government for 20 years. My mother is an attorney who is sort of on that first wave of a lot of women lawyers and has been a leader in that space, founded things like Women's Judges Night in Milwaukee. And so I had the bug early. I spent the summer before my freshman year of high school volunteering on a congressional campaign, and then it was off and running. I've worked on 3 presidential campaigns, worked in the Obama administration at the U.S. Small Business Administration, moved back home to Wisconsin in late 2011, and in 2016 founded Zepecki Communications to really work on issues I care about and I'm passionate about, whether that's funding public schools, protecting healthcare improvements and reforms that have been made, working with building trades union members to ensure that they build our clean energy future. I never thought we'd be in this space, but the last few years have had to do a lot of work in the democracy space, trying to lift up the January 6th Select Committee hearings and making sure that people know that the threats to our democracy are very real. And, along the way, I've tried to do some good, tried to give back. I'm a volunteer football coach at the high school I played at in the 1900s, is how the kids like to say it. And that stings pretty badly these days, but they're not wrong.
That's hilarious. I'm going to give Trygve a second, bring him in a second. But before I do, one more kind of general, quote-unquote, campaign question here. As a former Republican, I don't belong to any party now. I've been a big admirer. I think I could speak for Trygve as well. We both have of Ben Wickler and the job that he has done to build the Democratic Party. Look, I just personally believe that there's only one major party left that truly supports democracy, and that's the Democratic Party. So that's why I support them, but I'm not a card-carrying member. As you, and this is, I don't want to call it weird, but to people outside of politics, this is not an election for the general electorate. This is a very insider thing to Democrats. You're going to meet here in a couple of months for this election for chair. But speaking to those folks, what would you do to build on Chairman Wickler's successes, and how might a Zepecki chairmanship be different and building on that?
Well, first of all, Todd, we have a place for you You can be a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party, even if you're a former Republican.
I appreciate that. I just think for the purposes of this show, it's better that I don't. I don't know.
There you go. Fair enough. I've got some work left to do there. Listen, Ben Wickler has been an extraordinary chair and has really reimagined what the Democratic Party of Wisconsin can be. And so I think of this as three main roles that the chair plays and that the party plays. The first is fundraising. DPW, WISDEMS, however you refer to it, is a financial institution that raises money to support professional campaigns up and down the ballot. On that dial, we have to do what's been working. We have to continue to shine a spotlight on Wisconsin. I believe that money follows message. And when we communicate what's at stake, what the opportunities are, and how we're going to organize to push back and win, the resources will be there. When it comes to the infrastructure of the Democratic Party, the county parties, the issue-based caucuses, the college Democrats and those chapters, there are things that we can do to fine-tune and build on what Ben has built. Not all is well with the Democratic Party. If it was, we wouldn't have lost to Donald Trump 2 out of the last 3 times. And so I'm hearing from a lot of county leaders, there are things that can be improved. We have to lower barriers to entry for people who want to be part of the fight back, and that's what we're going to do. And then third, when it comes to how the Democratic Party communicates its message, we have been a disaster, and we shouldn't pretend otherwise. Burn it down and build it back up. That starts, from my perspective, with empowering more local messengers to carry the story. We no longer live in a world where, hey, these are your 3 talking points, go speak them at someone, works. Everybody needs to tell their own story about why they are motivated at this time in our history. So that's the quick 1, 2, 3. You can read the game plan for yourself at joezapecki.com.
Trigby?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I was really excited when Todd called me earlier today and said you were coming on, and I had actually been on a conference call earlier in the day where I found out that you were running. Talk a little bit about how Democrats, particularly north of Highway 29, do better. You know, when you start going north of Highway 29 up into Tiffany's district, even over to where I'm from in St. Croix County, which is kind of right on Highway 29, Democrats have struggled. How do you reach out to those people? Because, you know, really, Tammy Baldwin ended up winning because she ran just enough better than Donald Trump, than Harris in those counties. Talk a little bit about that.
To me, that's putting an economic framework at the center of everything we do. When we cede so much of the playing field to Republicans to define Democrats, and we don't meet them there, it's not the fault of voters north of Highway 29 that they think that all Democrats care about are bathroom bills and trans athletes. We are going to fight to protect the civil rights of everyone in this country, but at the heart of the Democratic Party is that pathway to the middle class. If you want to work hard and play by the rules, you need to be able to get ahead. And over the last 30 years, what we've seen is that big corporations are fixing the game against working people. Oh, you want to work? Great, we'll give you 29 hours a week. Wait, why 29? I want to work full time. Well, if you work 30, we got to give you health care. These big corporations are out of control and squeezing every nickel they can out of us, and it's made it harder and harder for young people especially, but also people in rural communities to feel like there is a path forward. You know, when the 3 of us graduated high school, we all probably had pretty high confidence. Whether we went to a 2 or 4 year school, into a trade, into the military, by the time we were 40, we could afford a house, maybe have the start of a little nest egg for retirement. When I talk to the 20-year-old in my house, she looks at me like I'm from another planet, that was the reality not 25, 30 years ago. That's what the heart of the Democratic Party is working for working people, and we have shied away from that. There is nothing about fighting for working class people that Democrats should be embarrassed about. Say it with your chest. We are here to fight for working families, period.
I'm here talking with Joe Zapecki, chair, or wants to be chair, candidate for chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and also our ongoing contributor and friend Trigby Olson, former Republican like myself, and senior advisor at the Lincoln Project. Joe, talk a little bit about, cause I had a conversation, I'll probably try to be succinct here. I had a conversation with a friend of mine I've known a long time, mid to late 30s guy from Southwest Wisconsin, has voted Democrat as far as Democratic as long as I've known him. And we got into this discussion, and you're not here, you're not running for DNC chair. I think it was a mistake for National Democrats to pass on Ben Wickler, but that's another bottle of wine. But this guy, David Hogg, who's now the vice chair of the Democratic Party, comes out here last week and says he's going to spend $20 million from his personal PAC to challenge sitting Democrats in safe districts who are either too old, in his opinion, or who don't vote progressive enough, and take them out to swing the party younger and more liberal. I mean, I'm not asking you to defend that, but just in Wisconsin, I find it hard to believe that Wisconsin Democrats think that Congressman Gwendolyn Moore should step aside because she's 74. I just don't get the strategy there.
Listen, it's not about the number next to how old you are. It's how much passion and fight you have left in you. I was actually with Congresswoman Moore this morning. We held a roundtable discussion with a half dozen of her constituents who are going to be impacted by the Republican plan to slash Medicaid. This is going to have a cascading economic impact apart from the morality question of cutting off disabled adults who are living independently. You name it. Gwen Moore has the fight. If you have the fight, fight with us in our coalition. If your time has passed and you've lost your fastball, yeah, it's probably time to exit stage left. I saw Senator Durbin announce today that he will be stepping aside. Dick Durbin has been a great Democrat for a very long time, and there is nothing wrong with passing the torch to a new generation of leaders. That's what Joe Biden said he was going to do back in 2020, and I think if he had lived up to that in more ways a little sooner, we may not be in such a five-alarm crisis when it comes to protecting everything that makes America actually great, as opposed to what MAGA Republicans want you to believe.
But I'm just fascinated by this as an outsider who's not part of the Democratic Party. Because in my opinion, I mean, Trigby and I have talked about this before as former Republicans. They're just better at keeping people in line. I mean, I don't envy the head of the Democratic Party because to me it's like herding cats, right? And so I'm just fascinated as an outsider. How do Democrats moving forward appease the David Hoggs and the AOCs, the people that say, look, we're tired, we're ticked off, we don't want to wait anymore, we don't care about the institutions, we want these reforms now. How do you keep their votes, which will be seen by some people as far left, and then kind of the more traditional Democrats? Well, I was talking to this guy from Southwest Wisconsin in his 30s, a Democrat. He said, this is a great example of why we are going to see a third party emerge because both parties are too far left and right. How do you, as the future chairman of the Democrats, keep a third party from emerging and say, no, we as the Wisconsin Democratic Party, we are a Big Ten?
I don't think we can be a pro-democracy movement if we shy away from democracy. Everybody has a right to run, and if they want to run against incumbents, go for it. We know that's an uphill battle, but there's nothing wrong with more democracy being the answer to the challenges our democracy faces. My approach is always, you got to have a big table. You got to have room in our coalition now more than ever for folks who think, yeah, we should raise the minimum wage and it should go up to $10.10 tomorrow. And there are also people on the left who say it should go to $25 tomorrow. We have to be a coalition that's big enough to keep everybody on sides, win back power. And if we want to have those fights and we land at 15, 17, 20, that's the hard work of governing. But for now, what the Trump administration is doing is focusing our attention and focusing, the mind on, whether you think it's 10-10 or 25, you think working people need a raise, and let's focus on that part of it moving forward. We can sort some of that out after we win back power and save our country.
Trigby, 1 minute, less than 1 minute. Quick question, quick answer before we go to break. Trigby, anything?
No, I mean, I just think, Joe, the answers you're giving about economics, and I say this, take it for what it's worth from a guy who used to work for McConnell, so I don't know how much credibility I have with people who are working to elect you. But the truth of the matter is you're spot on. I saw Mark Cuban had a tweet not long ago where it showed Wisconsin has more at risk from the tariffs than any other state. 10% of the jobs in Wisconsin are at risk. 73% of the people who are at risk voted for Donald Trump. Like, there's a huge opportunity, but they did it for a reason, and they did it because Republicans come along and say, as you said, it's about bathrooms and athletes and whatnot, which is not even
Olson,
true.
Joseph Pecky, back in for this on the other side. It's the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
That's such a good answer, Joe.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, very good.
I think about my
Tony on
beer
YouTube
drinking
agrees.
buddies back in River Falls. Like, that's what they need to hear, because right now they feel homeless.
Yeah. They are not alone.
You know, and they're naturally right of center people. But I think the other thing is there's been, you know, when we were coming up, right? I don't know, what year did you graduate from high school?
2000.
Yeah, so I graduated in '86, right? You know, we had a kid who was a couple years older than me. Family owned the hardware store, right? Hardware store's gone because Shopko came in, put them out of business. Then Shopko went out of business. Now, if you need stuff, you got to go up to Home Depot and Hudson, which, granted, not a long ways, but like that's jobs, you know. And instead of owning a business and the pride of that, your option is to go to work for Home Depot for $15 an hour. Like, totally different deal.
And only like 3 employees in the whole Home Depot get full-time status because they won't pay for healthcare for any more than that.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
And then you have people attacking the University of Wisconsin River Falls as a, quote, woke den of indoctrination, as Scott Walker referred to it. That's the place where the nurses, the teachers, like, it's no woke den of indoctrination.
I often say the most powerful thing in the world is not an idea whose time has come. It's the human mind, which can convince itself of anything. And Republicans like Scott Walker are just so high on their own supply. I actually think they believe this bullshit, but that's what it is. It's BS.
Right. It is. It is.
All right, Tricky, just, you know, we have new clocks, so we go to 59:50 as our out here. So.
An extra minute.
This is confusing me too, Todd.
I know. Our time's different. Our clock's
My
different.
kids are running around while I'm trying to be on the radio. Like, it's just a disaster.
How old are your kids, Trivia?
15 and 13 daughters.
We have a 20-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son.
Ah, yes. Girl dad, best job in the world.
I say uncle is the best job in the world. I can hand those kids back.
Yeah, actually, you might be right about that.
It's nice. It's real nice.
And they cost less. You feel better about spoiling them. The kids at our house just a constant handout.
That's true. Yeah, we started college visits last week. I called in to Todd's show from the University of Tennessee bookstore. The college visit thing, man, what a pain. She really likes Wisconsin, so I'm kind of hoping that might be.
All right, here we go.
Red's a better color than that orange.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Unless it's deer season.
Across Wisconsin, canvassing from Superior to Racine. Joe Zepecki is running for the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. With that music in his headphones, he's going to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, getting it done. He is a guest right now, along with Trygve Olsen, our ongoing contributor, former Republican like myself, now a senior advisor at the Lincoln Project. Joe, so appreciate you coming on here and having this open, honest discussion. We don't have enough people having these types of discussions, so I really appreciate this. Looking at the job of state chair, you've got the legislature now with fairer maps seems to be within reach, especially on the assembly side, maybe the state senate side. Going to have a gubernatorial race. Democrats don't know yet whether Governor Tony Evers is going to run for re-election. And there may or may not be new congressional maps, but you have, I'm going to say a MAGA extremist like Derek Van Orton in the 3rd District, who almost got knocked off by Rebecca Cook last time. As you look at the landscape, Joe Zepecki, as a potential future chairman, what do you see as your top priority?
Well, job number one is next spring. And that's an advantage that we have in Wisconsin. It helps keep the national spotlight on the state. It helps us raise the resources to invest in that year-round organizing that is so central to the wins that we've had. So ahead of next spring, we need to be innovating county by county, neighborhood by neighborhood to figure out what works. There are going to be places in our party where they want to, we call it turning the van upside down, where you stop talking to regular voters who are 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 4, past performance in elections. Let's knock some doors where it's 0 out of 4 or 1 out of 4. Let's have conversations. Maybe now is the time when people are both seeing and feeling what's happening from the Trump administration. They see their 401k. They may not have thought about voting last November, but now they're going, oh my God, what is this? I'm going to have to work another 3 or 4 years before I retire. Let's have those conversations. Let's build for next spring because, frankly, we protected democracy in Wisconsin by electing Susan Crawford and ensured a progressive majority that will honor the will of the people and elections. And that majority is only ensured through the spring of 2028. So I would rather pick up another seat, get to a 5-2 split on the state court, and then have greater confidence that there will not be shenanigans or big lie 3.0 when it comes to the 2028 presidential election. So it starts next spring. And then when you look at the fall, we've got to do it all. More is more. Like, this is not a time to say, well, we're going to put all our eggs in this basket. Tony Evers has been a stalwart defender of policies that would have made Wisconsin Alabama. Sorry, Alabama, but we don't want to be you, right? And we have this path to flipping control of the legislature for the first time in a generation, right? It's been since 2008 was the last time that Democrats had a majority. That path is there, and it provides another opportunity for us to raise resources from the types of groups that are only interested in flipping chambers. Ben's done a fantastic job, and there were doors that were closed to him and Democrats in Wisconsin because we weren't close enough to flipping chambers. We can walk and chew gum and win elections all at the same time. So whether it's recruiting candidates to stand for election in all 132 districts, whether it's ensuring that Tony Evers or some other Democratic candidate for governor have what they need, we have to do it all. We don't have the luxury of picking and choosing because building power in 2026 is so important. We have to flip the Congress. We have to take back the Senate. And I think given the economic anxiety that people are feeling, there's nothing that's out of reach for Democrats. We need to flood the zone with candidates who fit their district and can win, and we will provide the people power that can get folks over the top in districts that even 3 or 4 years ago, people never would have thought a Democrat could be competitive in.
Travy, something quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's spot on. I think, the other thing is, and I think Ben did a really good job of this. He was going to the Eau Claires, he was reaching out to those non-traditional people, and you're exactly right. Conversation is so essential.
I'm
because
heading up to Hayward, that part of the state, later this week. You got to be everywhere.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, if you think about, one thing that I pointed out, which is kind of national, but it relates to Wisconsin, 5 Senate races, okay, all in states that Harris lost. Jackie Rosen, Gallego, Tammy Baldwin, and Slotkin all spoke directly to the camera and said, this trans ads that they're running against me, it's not true. You know who I am. The one who didn't, Casey, lost. Harris didn't do it. She lost. You gotta have some trust in the people.
And you got to tell the story. And that's what I mean when I say that we're leaving the playing field uncontested, right? I mean, there are more billionaires in Donald Trump's cabinet than there are Division I trans athletes in the entire United States. This is a distraction so that they hope that you don't notice. They're fixing the economy for Elon Musk and billionaire special interests while the rest of us are getting nickel and dimed at every turn. And it just has to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is when people show up and show out. I like to say, if you have a government that's of the billionaires and by the billionaires, it's only ever going to be for the billionaires. If we have a government that is by and for the people, it is possible to have an economy that works for everyone. That's what we need to, the message we need to take to voters, not just tomorrow, not just next year, but moving forward for years to come to build an enduring pro-democracy coalition.
Trivia is always fond of saying that Democrats are great at writing policy, Republicans are great at writing narrative. It would seem to me having a guy who's a communication and marketing specialist like Joe Zepecki would be a great person to have in charge of writing a Democratic narrative, but that's just me as an outsider.
I'd love to earn people's support. Go to joezepecki.com to learn more. Join the team. We got a place for you on our squad.
Joe Zepecki, we appreciate you coming on so very much. Good luck in your bid to be the Democratic Party chair of Wisconsin. We'll stay in touch. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Be well.
Yep, you as well. Joe Zepecki, everybody.
Good luck.
Trigby, we got 30 seconds left. Any final comments from the Packers on the draft?
Well, aren't we playing that game still with the new time where it's either or? What is it called? Which is worse?
Well, you want to stay around for what's worse?
I love that game. Of course I'm going to stay. Shaving versus flossing?
Yes, all right.
Who doesn't want to be a part of that?
Trigby's going to stay around for what's worse. That's fantastic. Great tease. We appreciate that. Come on back. It's hour number 2 of the Todd Allbaugh Show at our new time right here on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Is 92.7 WMDX Columbus, Madison's home for real news and great conversation. A civic media station.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. At the Vatican, the body of Pope Francis now lying in state in St. Peter's Basilica, where people are waiting in long lines to pay respects for the next 3 days. That leads up to his funeral on Saturday. ABC's Terry Moran is in Vatican City on what's next.
What comes next after Saturday's funeral and burial? The conclave, that ancient process, all the cardinals gathering in the Sistine Chapel, sworn to secrecy to choose the next pope. No date for that has been set yet. Vatican rules say it should be 15 to 20 days after the death of a pope.
President Trump and the First Lady will be among world leaders in attendance. Today, officials from the U.S., Europe, and Ukraine held meetings in London on a ceasefire deal talks between Ukraine and Russia. The CDC is reporting more than 8,000 cases of whooping cough in the U.S. this year. That's more than twice the number compared to this time last year as vaccination rates fall. This is ABC News.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
For 92.7 WMDX News, I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. The state Senate has approved an incentive package to keep Thermo Fisher Scientific in Middleton. According to reporting from the State Journal, essentially lawmakers are creating an exception to the law, allowing the city of Middleton to offer bigger tax breaks to the company. The bill passed in the Senate yesterday with flying colors, 32-1. Thermo Fisher employs 1,800 people, and other states are trying to lure them away from Wisconsin. Lawmakers hope this will get them to stay. Meanwhile, work is starting on Wisconsin's biennial budget. In divided government, Republicans in the legislature and the Democratic governor have to work together. So where are they at in that process? Joanne Krulotz has the answer.
Tax and budget talks are getting off the ground at the Capitol. Democratic Governor Tony Evers said Tuesday that he's had meetings with Republican legislative leaders and staff. Evers said his goal would be to have work completed this summer, but the legislature seems a little slow this time around. Assembly Speaker Robin Vos believes the governor realizes that there will not be no spending without a reduction in taxes.
I think the governor realizes that we're not going to spend any more money unless we have the ability to reduce taxes and help folks deal with inflation. And I think we realize that we're not going to ever get a tax cut if we don't talk with the governor and see where his priorities are as well. So we're very early in the process, but again, I'm an optimist. I hope we can get a budget across the finish line.
Republicans prefer passing a tax package before moving on to the budget, while Evers wants any cuts to be part of the overall budget. Evers said he won't make a decision regarding a possible third term until after the budget is finished.
That's Joanne Krulotz reporting. As they make budget decisions, leaders have about a $4.5 billion surplus to work with. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. You're listening to 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers blast the Giants. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball last night in San Francisco. Top of the 6th. Bases loaded. Christian Yelich at the plate on FanDuel, Wisconsin.
2-2 coming. Fly ball center field. Back goes Lee. He is still back, and it is gone. A grand slam for Christian Yelich opens this ball game wide open.
It was Yelich's first grand slam in 3 years. Milwaukee went on to win 11-3 over the Giants. A lot of contributions from the crew. Pat Murphy.
Trang sticks out. Yelich sticks out. Those guys were amazing. Bowers getting to start once in a while and hit a homer later in the game to keep adding on. A lot of good Durbin. A lot of good offensive performances today.
NBA, the Bucks losing to the Pacers 123-115. Indiana leads the series 2-0. Game 3 Friday night.
We'll just see. I'm very confident
about this series. Very.
At Stock Rivers with Sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
Enjoying this local program? Find the complete Civic Media lineup at civicmedia.us or the Civic Media app.
Scattered showers and thunder showers likely today, tonight, and again tomorrow. Our high today, upper 60s to low 70s with a light south breeze. Tonight, we're going to drop to around 50. Tomorrow, our high in the upper 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 46.
At National Geographic Society, we believe in the power of wonder. It drives us to explore, pushes us to see the world differently, moves us to action. And we believe that today, wonder is more essential than ever.
Wow.
That's why we're supporting a new generation of explorers to ask big questions,
you repositioned your
make
camera.
breakthroughs,
I was reading
and bring the
traffic.
future closer.
We're in drive
Wonder
time now
awaits.
officially,
Will you
Trivia, at
join
3
us?
o'clock. So
Visit
now we can talk a little bit about
natgeo.org/wonder.
traffic. How about that?
The John and Gordy Show.
Okay, I don't know
Mike
what
McCabe,
what I
Substack
did
blogger,
to
and
fix
you
it.
It looks great
Sometime.
now.
Yeah, how's it? I don't know.
Your Packers helmet, everything. Look at that.
But how do I connect this?
All right, got 30 seconds.
All right, thank you.
Live from the Civic Media World Headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the Todd Allbaugh Show. And now, pursuing truth wherever it may lead, here's your host, Todd Allbaugh.
Across Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network and streaming worldwide on the Civic Media app. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Todd Allbaugh, along with Mr. Aaron Zommers, our producer and engineer on the board. It is 6 past the hour of 3 o'clock on this Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. It is a great day to be a Wisconsinite, and it is Hump Day. There you go. Welcome into hour number 2 of the big program. If you normally listen to the fantastic Maggie Dawn show every afternoon at this time, have no fear. She's still around. Just 2 hours later, things shifted around a little bit as far as scheduling. Starting today, we are now on from 2 until 4. Maggie joins the network then from 4 until 6. The complete 2 hours of the Maggie Dawn Show follows us starting at 4 o'clock. And then it'll be Pete Schwaba and Nightlight from 6 until 8. Coming up in this hour, a little What's Worse for you. And then at the bottom of the hour, Matt Solomon is here from Cracked.com talking about the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, the history thereof, and how the 50th anniversary is shaping up. Trygve Olsen's going to be back in just one moment, but first it is, by the way, Zommers, now that we're doing officially, technically, 3 o'clock is drive time. Some people going to pick up kids or whatnot. Some people getting out of work earlier in the afternoon. So we thought, we'd throw a little traffic for you, especially... Wow, I like that. A little traffic horn. Very good. Checking the 511. That's 511wi.gov. Traffic around the state of Wisconsin. A few slowdowns for you, particularly for our listeners on WAUK in southeast Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and the suburbs. If you're traveling in the Milwaukee area, be aware that I-43 heading north from Milwaukee and 94 up to 190 in the Shorewood area, going slow right now. Then over on Highway 41 north and south, it is the northbound lane from just north of 94 up to around Mayfair area and just south of the crossroad at 190. That is headed north on 41. That is slow as well. And then further up on Highway 41, just south of 41, or rather just south of the Woodman Food Market there, that is going slow as well. So basically, Highway 41, say from the Interstate 94 on up to alternate 41. That's going to be slow going there. And also 43, as expected this time of day, between I-94 and I-90 up in the Shorewood area. That is slow as well. Otherwise, most other major traffic areas and roads around the state of Wisconsin are on time for the most part. A couple of minor accidents on the sidelines here and there. And of course, this time of year, all roads are in good driving condition as well. Don't have to worry about snow anymore either. Trygve Olsen joins us for hour number 2. How about Joe Zepecki, Trygve? I thought he was fantastic, and I think he's the kind of guy that can continue on the work that Ben Wickler has done for the Democrats.
Yeah, I think he's terrific. And, if Ben built the foundation, Joe is the guy to put the structure on the house. And, he gets it, right? Like, he gets it.
No, he really
Here's
does.
the other thing. The David Hogg thing,
Yeah.
instead of spending your money on Gwen Moore, put it into doing something constructive, like taking out Van Orden.
Right,
or
that's right.
style.
That's exactly what
Right.
Todd said.
Yeah, and for those who joined us last hour, we had Joe Zepecki, who's running for Democratic Party chair, that now that Ben Wickler is not going to run again. And I brought up this thing we talked about on this show a couple of days ago. David Hogg, who's now the National Democratic Party vice chairman, got his claim to fame from being one of the survivors of the Parkland school shooting in Florida, which, of course, that's a tragedy. And, can't imagine living through that. He's kind of parlayed that into, as far as I know, the guy's never run a race, right? I don't think he's even run a state house race at all. But he's parlayed this into kind of a claim of fame amongst Democrats, and now he got himself elected vice chair of the Democratic Party. And over the weekend, he said that his personal super PAC is going to spend $20 million on primarying Democratic incumbents in safe House seats, and he's going to target those that he feels are too old or don't vote progressively enough. And I agree with you, Trygve. I don't get it. I just don't get that strategy. And I agree with you. His organization would be much better off putting that $20 million, part of it, against guys like Derek Van Orton or other people that are just very, very extreme. So look, we're not Democrats, so I guess that's up to them. I'm going to ask you this because I list Tom Hartman's on now before us. And I found this fascinating because Mark Pocan was on that show, a congressman here, the only other Democrat that represents Wisconsin, and was on Hartman's show today on the national show taking questions. And this is in order. I wrote this down as I was driving in. So the first caller was calling in to say that Democrats should lobby Republicans outside their district to have some courage and join and get Hakeem Jeffries elected speaker. And even Mark Pocan said, look, not so sure about that one, because if you try to leave a message or an email on my website, you have to enter in your zip code. And if you're not in my district, you can't even leave a message. So I'm not sure about that one. The second caller wanted to socialize airlines, thought the airlines in America should be owned by the government and not private companies. The next caller wanted Pocan to join I hadn't even heard of this, the Occupy the White House movement, a la January 6th, only going up against the White House instead of the Capitol. The next person was in favor of Head Start. I think that's a good one. And the final caller was advocating for the Bernie AOC ticket in 2028. Now, I get that that's a more liberal program than what we're doing here, but I just found it fascinating that and again, that's why I was getting, and I appreciate Zepecki answering the question. I just don't understand how you can satisfy that faction of the Democratic Party that's in favor of all those things I just listed, and also kind of more traditional Democrats. It's a tough job. I wouldn't want it.
No, I mean, but that's any party chairman's having to deal with that, right? But Democrats aren't losing elections because they're too progressive, right? They won the state Supreme Court race because their base was energized, but they also won the state Supreme Court race because there were an awful lot of those people that voted for Tammy Baldwin and Donald Trump, or skipped one or the other, who looked at Schimmel, looked at what Elon was doing, and just said, no. Elon jumping around in a cheese head not appealing.
Not so much.
And so Democrats should have to be really careful within the infrastructure not to fall into the same traps that Republicans did with not speaking truth when, I mean, you and I, during the rise of the Tea Party movement, every Republican who was working in politics would have conversations with people and they'd be saying things and you're like, that's just not true, but you wouldn't correct them.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
And that's not necessarily the role of the state party chair, but like with what David Hogg is doing, that should be getting called out.
Yeah, and many
And I get their
Democrats
frustration
are
too,
calling it.
because
Yeah.
like Chuck Schumer really looked weak.
Yeah,
right. But that said, the country, they don't want to admit that the country and the places like Wisconsin that decide it are naturally ever so slightly right of center.
Do you think there's
I
going to
think
be
Joe gets that, though.
Do you think there's going to be a major third party movement here before the next presidential election?
There's so many obstacles to it because if the two parties do one thing, it's they protect their own turf. And having been around the edges of Howard Schultz looking at it, it's a really hard thing. That said, if it's AOC versus Donald Trump running for a third term, I think there's a ton of space if somebody who had the resources and could appeal to that middle were to be the candidate. I mean, if I just throw his name out, I don't know him well or anything, but like if a Mark Cuban were to say, I'm going to run as a fiscally conservative business guy who's socially tolerant, that would have a lot of appeal to a lot of people.
Yeah. Let's go to the phone lines quickly. 855-752-4842. 855-752-4842. Ollie in the North Woods. Ollie, thanks for calling in. What say you?
Hi. This isn't kind of with your thing that you were talking about, but I heard a little bit on Hartman where he was talking with someone and they were discussing how Trump was basically getting, like he got from all the rich people, all the donations for his inauguration. And then he talked a little bit about even on Sunday's egg roll, how like Apple donated and different companies had donated and they were getting special compensations in ways like for tariffs and stuff. And my question is, I would like to see some kind of big protest in Washington, D.C. on 4th of July, and also a silent protest where when they have the 4th of July celebration, people could wear certain colors or certain armbands or certain T-shirts and protest that way.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering how they actually, what's the funding that goes into that? Will the big businesses be paying for that, and thereby we're
paying for what, Ollie? I'm not sure what you mean.
Will they, like when they have the big celebrations at the Capitol on 4th of July?
Right.
Is that going to be a moment for Trump to also be collecting?
Well, sure. I mean, he wants to have a big, he wants to have a big, right. He wants to have, I appreciate the call, Ollie. Thanks so much. I mean, Trigby, we've seen this, the Easter egg roll. I mean, a lot of different, Paz and Target, all these, Amazon were sponsors. And we've seen this, Mark Zuckerberg gives $1 million to the Trump inauguration. And guess what? The tariffs don't apply to them. Apple does the same thing. It's pay for play. Am I wrong?
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's a long tradition of things like the Easter egg roll, companies pitching in the money so that it's not taxpayers' money going to pay for the Easter egg roll. That said, what's different is, Donald Trump it sure seems that the Trump administration is pay to play. And, that is different.
Yeah, indeed. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, Jean's on the line. We'll take her phone call quickly, and then, actually, see, the new clock throws me off. All right, Jean, let's go to Jean O'Clair, 855-752-4842. Jean, you got 45 seconds. It's all yours, my friend. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if I could say it that fast, but I'll try.
All right.
Anyway, hey, great show, guys. This is wonderful. I got to say something on behalf of the young man that's chair of the Democratic, or,
Vice Chair, David Hogg. Yep.
He was in that shooting, and he went to the Capitol, and he was the one that was harassed by Marjorie Taylor Greene, following him around, harassing him, yelling at these kids who watched their classmates get slaughtered. Well, it's not really polite the way he's doing it. However, he really cares. And so I want to support all young people and their voices.
Would you?
And
I'm up against the clock, Gene. Would you be okay if David Hogg put in $5 million against Mark Pocan and Glenn Moore?
Well, I
to
would
primary him?
have something to say about that. Yes, I would. Yeah. I
Okay.
get what you're saying. The money.
Right.
The money.
So I appreciate the call, Jim. Up against the clock. Come on back. What's Worse is next on Civic Media's Radio Network.
Madison's real news and great conversation.
I love it,
92.7
Well, not in
WMDX.
my
At the end of the day,
Whatever plays
everybody
down is
wants the
fine.
same thing from their mattress. A good night's rest.
All right, guys, what's worse
It's
next?
I like Zepecki's answer on it, where he's like, it's not about age. It's about finding people who are not pulling their weight.
Right.
And
I still don't. I'm sorry. I still don't believe it.
I still don't think it's worth it. But
I mean, Trigby and I came up where, Mike Ellis, when I didn't even get a chance to talk about this, there was a time, for those watching the stream that are not old enough to remember the 90s, there was a time when the Senate Republican caucus in Wisconsin, the majority, had pro-choice state senators in Carol Ressler, Alberta Darling. Yes, she started as a pro-choice legislator. Carol
Lorman.
Ressler, pardon? Barb Lorman, Mary Panzer, Peggy Rosenzweig, all Republican women in the state Senate that were pro-choice. And Ellis said, I don't give a crap, these other words, I don't give a crap about those things as long as you're with us on the budget, as long as you're with us on electing a majority leader. And that's how you build a majority. And I just don't understand this theory of, in my opinion, it should be up to the voters of each district. Hey, is that individual representing us? Are they doing town halls? Are they there? That's just... yeah. Unless you're somebody like Matt Gaetz or something like that, or George Santos, who's a complete idiot. But beyond that, I don't think the National Party should be taking out city members of their own party. You're there to build a majority. It ain't always perfect. It rarely is.
Wherever you are in Wisconsin, there's a free and confidential aging and disability.
No, the litmus test thing is...
or tribal partner agency. We're here for
It's crazy.
adults
Yeah.
with disabilities,
30 seconds.
and
All right, here we go.
families. ADRCs are a bridge to support for benefits.
I have a sad story to tell you. It may hurt your feelings a bit. Last night when I walked into my bathroom, I stepped in a big pile of shaving cream. Be nice and clean. Shave every day and you'll always look keen.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network. 22 now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Trivia Olson joins us from our nation's capital. Zommers, that's a triggering song for me.
I suppose. I guess I know that. I should not do that.
The short version is, back years ago in high school, I worked at WRCO Richland Center, now part of Civic Media. My colleague Phil Nee, who still has the great show Those Were the Days every Saturday night from 6 until midnight, played that song. It's called Shaving Cream. And our owner, Pete Athanas, came back. And in those days, everybody smoked, or at least Pete did. And he came back and he goes, say, I was driving back from Madison and Todd played this song and he knew what they were going to say. And Phil says, what a guy Phil need. He goes, actually,
Took a bullet for you.
That was me. He goes, you played it, never again. So I never played that song. But Phil, all right, time once again. Here we go for What's Worse. Let's go.
This or that, this or that. Then, of course, the choice is yours. You can get with this.
Time once again for What's Worse. No prize money involved, nothing to give away, but it is your chance to have your voice heard across all 11 stations in the Civic Media News Sports Talk Network. Glad to have you along. Trigby Olson stayed around for this. It's a great category today. Category today, timely indeed. What's worse, shaving or flossing? Thus the song that Summers played. What's worse, shaving or flossing? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. What's worse, shaving or flossing? You can also text us on the Civic Media app. Trigby Olson, shaving or flossing? What's worse?
Flossing.
Didn't even think about it.
But it's more important than shaving.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably true.
That is definitely true.
Right? Now, are you one when you go to the dental hygienist, and, they'll say, well, you really should floss every time, you really should floss more. Or are you a pretty frequent flosser?
I am a pretty frequent flosser, but I am not a fan of flossing at all.
You don't like it, but you do it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to. I'm less a fan of shaving in a way, but flossing you have to do, right?
Well, you and I both wear beards most of the time.
Grow.
I've worn a beard for the last 2 years, or over, plus 3 years probably.
Incidentally, I'm terrified of dentists.
Are you really?
Yeah, I had a really bad experience. I broke my front tooth playing hockey, and it was bad.
Surprise. Chris, listening on WRCE in Blue River, says shaving is worse. I floss every day. Shaving only, or I absolutely have to. Casper, one of our great engineers here in Madison on MDX, says shaving. Ouch! I have sensitive skin. I didn't know that about Casper. He has sensitive skin.
I didn't know that either.
I wonder if he used
snowflake.
Cam in Appleton says shaving. I don't have to floss my rear end. Does he shave his rear end?
Presumably.
I don't get the point of that one. Christy, listening on WCFW, the tap in Eau Claire, says flossing is worse. You have to stick your fingers in your mouth.
Okay. I have to ask a question about this. How do you do that? How do you floss using actual floss? I only use floss picks because I could not.
You wrap it around your finger. Then you go one finger kind of inside your mouth and one on the outside. You go back and forth.
I don't know. I never got the hang of that. I was like, this is so weird. And I don't think I have ever successfully flossed with normal floss.
All right.
Well, in our day, Zommers, we didn't have your fancy floss
I know.
picks. We were lucky to have fishing line to use to pick our teeth.
Right. Back in our day, we killed a deer and used the tendon as a piece of floss, and we liked it that way. What's worse, shaving or flossing? 855-752-4842, 855-752-4842. Matt in Middleton on MDX says shaving is worse as I'm still learning to work my beard facial hair, and it takes some effort as flossing is easy. Chris, listening on WMDX in Madison, says flossing way worse. Shaving is ritualistic, almost cathartic. But flossing is intrusive and a chore. And while important, the results of flossing aren't as noticeable as shaving is. Well, that's a good point. Casper says back to Trigby, get off my lawn, Trigby. That's fantastic. Megan in Sun Prairie on WMDX says shaving is worse. It's way more time consuming than flossing. And if I don't floss, only the dentist notices. Not shaving often enough is uncomfortable. All right. Tyler up in Columbia County on MDX says shaving is worse. Water flossers work well with how my teeth are. Plus, the pre-made flossers take the pain out. Well, there you go. To Zomer's point, I use both. I use the floss pick, and I also use the regular old floss line, or whatever you want to call it. Zomers, what's worse, flossing or shaving?
Shaving. I'm never gonna cut myself flossing.
I would say for me, I would say flossing is probably worse, just because I don't know, it takes time to get in there and do it right. Or shaving is pretty straightforward for me. Tregvi, did you have a definitive answer?
I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's right. Sorry. We started out that way.
Seems like the audience is pretty split on this one too.
Yeah, it's a split. All right. Well, come on back. We'll have another edition of What's Worse tomorrow here in the new time slot. Trigvi, we'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the draft, my friend. You think it's going to be a wide receiver in the first round?
I know. I might have to call in on Friday, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We could have a little review.
Brady Ewing's going to be here, I think, on Friday, former NFL player, talking about that.
Oh, yeah.
So
He'll probably be picking Wisconsin to beat Alabama again next year, too.
Trivia, everybody. Appreciate it, my friend. Stay tuned. Matt Solomon is next on the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Come on back.
Be nice and clean. Shave every day and you'll always look keen.
There you go.
All right, boys. We'll see ya.
Yep, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, yep. Bye.
This is your local civic media radio station. Want to hear even more?
All right, it looks like Matt Solomon is here. Do you have a camera?
I have a camera. I'm not really dressed for camera duty.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Matt's
fine.
joining us as a nudist today.
Yeah. When I say I'm not really dressed for the occasion, I mean I'm not really dressed.
But he is dressed. How are you, Matt?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for coming on.
I'm still fascinated by this shaving versus flossing debate.
Oh, that's from CP. So that he wrote that one. So
I think shaving is worse because just cleaning. No matter how many times I clean the sink, there's always strays.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah. So very true.
Do not have that issue with flossing. Thank goodness.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Got about 4 minutes here. I'm going to get a little bit more water. Be right back.
Yep. Sounds good.
Close to 4,000 students will be at State Convention in Madison.
Once again, that's Ellen Schutt, the Wisconsin FFA Foundation Executive Director, along with us. I'll have more agriculture news right after this.
It's still sinking in. All the medals that Bavaria Sausage brought home from the German Butchers Association competition. Scott Stoll, one of the owners of Bavaria Sausage, says they walked away with 49 medals, 30 that were gold, and all the products they submitted, something you can purchase today.
We picked products right out of the freezer, right out of the deli case, right out of our coolers, and that's what we brought. We did not do a special batch of any of this. We didn't know, but we had a feeling that we'd do pretty well with the Germans on this one.
That's Scott Stoll, one of the owners of Bavaria Sausage, capturing 49 medals at the recent German Butcher Association Meat Products Competition, recognizing the quality that started more than 60 years ago with Fred Bull. Bavaria Sausage. Shop those award-winning meats today at the corner of Nesbitt Road, Fitzroder Road in Fitchburg. Open Monday through Friday, 9 until 7, Saturday, 9 until 1, or always open online. BavariaSausage.com.
I'm Charity Seebecker from the Midwest Farm Report.
Do you, Matt, have a song request to go into the next segment?
I do not. I didn't know that was a thing.
Could be if you want something.
Yeah,
you
if
got
you
a
think of
couple of
something,
minutes.
we got a
yeah.
couple minutes. But if you don't, I will just find something like the SNL theme or something like that.
Yeah, the SNL theme would be probably appropriate. I do have a Cubs hat on, guys. Sorry.
That's all good. we have Cubs fans.
There's a lot of Cubs fans. I moved up to Wisconsin in '89, and I was shocked how many Cubs fans were up here. I think because of WGN, basically.
Right.
Back, a lot of people grew up with it. It was the only thing that was on TV. So.
No, especially our listeners down in Racine, Kenosha, those areas
Sure.
closer to Illinois.
My dog is shallow, y'all. Hi, I'm Smokey Robinson. When you adopt a shelter...
Scattered showers and thunder showers likely today, tonight, and again tomorrow. Our high today, upper 60s to low 70s with a light south breeze. Tonight, we're going to drop to around 50. Tomorrow, our high in the upper 60s. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 46.
When a parent sees their child smile, they see hope. Alim hoped that his son Rajib would have an easier life than he had. You see, Rajib, just like his father, was born with a cleft. But thanks to Smile Train, both father and son received free, life-changing surgeries, transforming their smiles into symbols of hope. To learn more and support the global cleft community, visit smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba.
I just got to have one major traffic accident in northern Wisconsin, so just got to give a quick traffic update, and then we'll be into the show.
Let him your first guest with Jimmy Walker in the background.
Yes, you dynamite.
It's Saturday Night Live with Michael Che.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show. I wish it were Saturday Night Live. Sorry to disappoint you. 35 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on the Civic Media Radio Network here on a Wednesday. Going to get to a little bit of SNL reflection in a moment, but at 35 past the hour, quick update for you on Wisconsin roadways. One major accident to report to you, particularly for our listeners at WBZH up in Hayward. If you were looking to go on Highway 27 out of Hayward North, find an alternative route. Wisconsin DOT reporting at this hour that Wisconsin 27 north of Camp Eastmore Road, all lanes are now blocked and closed due to a crash there. So again, this is north of Hayward on Highway 27. Both north and south lanes, the road is completely shut down due to a major crash there on Highway 27 north of Hayward. On the opposite end of the state, there are several slowdowns right now, kind of basically normal drive time traffic for this afternoon in the greater Milwaukee area. Highway 41 north and south right now, north of Interstate 94. That is going slow right now. And also as we zoom in here, I-43 going south as well towards from Shorewood down to Milwaukee. That is pretty slow going right now as well. We'll keep you up to date on any other major accidents that become available due to the 511wi.gov site. 36 now past 3 o'clock. We are pleased to have our next guest back on the show. He is from the great publication of Cracked.com. He is Matt Solomon. Matt, thanks for coming back on. How you been?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to have you on. Our intro music there was the theme of Saturday Night Live, celebrating the 50th anniversary thereof, and being 55 myself, I don't really, I kind of sort of, I guess, remember some of the earlier episodes. My mom and dad watched it a lot in the 70s, and I'm not sure why they let a kid up that late once in a while on Saturday, but I remember John Belushi and, Gilda Radner and some of those early people, then later on Steve Martin, and then kind of my prime viewing for me personally of Saturday Night Live, the era that I probably is fixed in my head the most, kind of the Dana Carvey years. I mean, I think those were
Sure.
really, really well written, but, guys earlier like Chevy Chase, of course, he was only on for one season? Chevy Chase or
one season? Well, he was on a couple episodes of season 2, but essentially a one and done.
But I mean, still, his imitation of President Ford and the Weekend Update and things. But so many iconic memories for guys and gals my age. And I guess now as we are here at the 50th anniversary, one of the questions is, A, is the show relevant? And B, how is it held up, and how is the 50th anniversary going? And here to talk about all of that, because you've written this great column at Crack.com.
Yeah, when you were talking about the Dana Carvey cast was your cast. There's a cliche about SNL that everyone's favorite cast is the cast that was on when they were about 12, 13, 14 years old. Those were the glory days for everyone.
Yeah, right.
Is to your point about is the show relevant? It still makes a lot of money for NBC. It still gets some of the best ratings in late night. It's still like they had the Webby Awards yesterday, I think, and SNL cleaned up at the Webby Awards for all the stuff they do on social media and TikTok, and so I don't think it's as relevant as it's ever been. But man, the people, I think any show that lasts 50 years is relevant to me, and just in terms of longevity. It's not the star maker that it used to be, for sure. But I think in a fractured media environment, it's about as relevant as anything can be, I think.
Let's talk a bit about Lorne Michaels, the executive producer of the of the show. Talk about relevant and a star maker. Not only has he overseen this show for the majority of its 50 years, but here's a guy who, from Wisconsin's own Chris Farley, and you could go right down the list from there. David Spade, other people went on to either television or movie careers that were due in large part to Lorne Michaels.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why he can when we talk about being relevant, that's why he continues to have the influence that he does, because he's been a kingmaker for 50 years. I mean, even the guys that you've talked about, so the Belushi and the Chevy Chase and the David Spades and the Chris Farleys, those are all 20th century people. But in this century, the Bill Haders and the Tina Feys and the Will Ferrells and Kristen Wiggs, it's just remarkable, and then he's got this farm system now where he's completely taken over late night, and Jimmy Fallon moves from SNL into the Tonight Show spot, and Seth Meyers moves from Weekend Update into the Late Show spot. He's got a big footprint, and he has a lot of influence. He knows, I think if you're, how can you be a 40-year-old NBC executive and not look at this guy and be like, geez, this guy has been anointing people since well before I was born. But to that point, he's also 80-ish, and this, I don't know how much longer it can go on.
Who's the heir apparent, you think?
The funny thing is, about this time last year, he was making noise like, I'm going to get to the party. I'm going to stay on until I get to that SNL 50 party. And then I'm going to get on my horse and ride off into the sunset. And the closer it got, I think the more he was like, geez, this is, I get a good table.
Right.
When I go to the nice restaurants, and all of a sudden he's not so ready to let go of the reins. He seemed to have anointed Tina Fey last year, and to me, there's two people that make sense. It's Tina Fey and Seth Meyers. They both were head writers on the show. They both were performers on the show, and they both have run their own shows that were extremely successful. Seth Meyers executive producing his late night show, and Tina Fey with 30 Rock and all of her ancillary other things. They were just the trifecta of people that the current cast would respect, because they killed it as performers. They were amazing writers, and they've been amazing producers. So those are the only two names to me that check all the boxes and are also still young enough that you're not turning over the keys to somebody that you're going to have to replace 10 years down the line anyway. So if I were going to go on one of the online betting sites that we can't use here in the state of Wisconsin, my money would be on Tina Fey, but we'll see.
We'll see. I get the sense he's got at least one more year in him. I don't think he's ready to step down, but I don't know. I mean, Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought he was ready to step down, but man, everyone inside that building is like, nope. He's kind of settled into that chair, and he's not ready to go. He's going to keep munching that popcorn at his desk for.
Did you? Well, I'm sure you did, but I watched the 50th anniversary special, the primetime special, whatever, for SNL.
You watched the 3.5 hours?
Yes, I did. Watched all of it, and I went into it with trepidation because I'm like, is this going to be a little cringeworthy?
Yeah.
What's your take? Because I thought, wow, that was actually more well done than I thought it might be.
It was just an impossible job, right? To create a show that's going to appeal to, at least 4 generations of fans. I thought the show went about as well as it could have, although I am just astounded by the fact that apparently afterwards everybody said we never rehearsed. We didn't have one rehearsal for it. And I think part of that was, I'm sure, was the logistics of all of the people that they had, the biggest comedy stars of the past 50 years, getting them all in the building early and putting them through their paces was probably, on the one hand, just a logistical nightmare. On the other hand, I would have been scared to death to do some of these, there was the big John Mulaney musical number where they're going out to people in the bleachers, and they're singing huge production numbers that they were doing for the first time not only in front of a live audience, but the first time they were doing it with each other. That's unbelievable to me. That would have been so frightening. I think, all things considered, I think it was kind of a miracle. Honestly, I mean, I don't think it was I don't hold it up as like some example of like, this is the best comedy that America has produced in the last 50 years. But I think that it came off as well as it did. It was an accomplishment, and it was probably representative of the raggedy show that it's been from the beginning. It's never been a top to bottom great show. And from whatever glory days that people think they remember, it was always 2 or 3 great sketches and then kind of a mess.
Right. And then the rest of it, like, it's just like, the rest of it was whatever. But there's always these couple of highlights that stick out throughout the hour.
That's what everybody remembers.
We're talking with Matt Solomon from Crack.com on the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Matt, let's talk about this 50th season now. This is pretty recent, from a couple of weeks ago or so. They did a sketch spoofing both White Lotus, the big popular streaming show, and also it was called, the sketch was White POTUS, and it went after the Trump administration, and it put Trump family characters in the White Lotus characters, and explain what happened there, because it was pretty controversial, at least for a couple of days.
It was okay. You know what? And I'm going to tie this into your relevance question that we started off here. The weirdest thing to me about season 50 is these very small things that happen in a show that become a big entertainment story for 3, 4, or 5 days after the show runs. So the White POTUS was a parody of HBO's The White Lotus. There's an actress in that show, very attractive young actress named Amy Lou Wood, who has a little bit of an overbite, and Sarah Sherman portrayed her in the parody, and she wore a massive set of chompers, big prosthetic teeth, and it hurt Amy Lou Wood's feelings, which, I mean, it wasn't especially nice, but there's certainly been crueler things that have been done on Saturday Night Live. But the day after the show, she went on her social media and said basically SNL was mean, and that started a firestorm on social media of people coming to either to the defense of Amy Lou Wood, or people defending the right of comedy to poke fun at people, even if it's not especially kind. Cracked probably wrote 6, 7 stories about it, because every time we thought we were done with it, something else would happen. there would be a story that Sarah Sherman sent her flowers, or that SNL apologized. No, SNL did not apologize after all. And the legs that those little incidents have on the show, people seem to talk about that more than they talk about the actual comedy.
And so is it because, well, we got to take a break because of the clock. But when we come back, I'll ask Matt, is this because of the relevance of Saturday Night Live, or is it because while I'm holding in my hand these devices that everything goes social, and that's why people are still talking about it? We're going to talk to Matt Solomon after this at SNL at 50. This is the Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Fry on a Friday night.
So we come back, Matt. We'll have about 7 minutes in the next segment. Anything in particular you want to make sure we hit on?
I'm comfortable talking about anything that Chris threw in his suggested topics, and you can throw me a curveball too. We'll roll with whatever.
I just like it conversational. It's just a lot of fun. So.
Yeah.
We don't have any kids.
Right. That's beside the point. Point is, I'm hungry. You're hungry.
Let's go.
Yes. And we should.
One of the funny things about, I don't know if we want to talk about this, but about the SNL 50 show, I felt like what people were talking about after that show wasn't so much the show, but there was so much talk about who didn't show up. Where was Dan Aykroyd?
Yes.
Where was Dan Aykroyd? Where was Dana Carvey? Where was Bill Hader? Who's mad at who? It was unbelievable. All of the scuttlebutt around who got snubbed and who, and that, to the degree that something is relevant or not, there's certainly a lot of online conversation about it. Now, I'm also, due to the job that I'm doing, I'm clued into that maybe more than I should be. So maybe it's not as much conversation as I think, but in our world, it's what drives a lot of our story interest for sure.
Awesome. I like that a lot. We got one caller has a question on sketches.
He said he wanted to bring up
his favorite sketch of the year.
Right. Up to you if you want to take it or not. Or
yeah, we'll see. We have time. Yeah.
Is he asking me what my favorite sketch of the year is?
I think
or he has a favorite
sketch. He's sharing one, Aaron, or
that's what he said. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, great. Because I have to think, I'm like, cool. Man, I know what my favorite sketch of the year is.
Well, I think his are not even of the year, but
just like overall, all 50
years. Some that he remembers.
All right.
Okay.
Found an injured, sick, or orphaned wild animal? Dane County Humane Society's Wildlife Center can help. Call 608-287-3235 or visit giveshelter.org/wildlife for what to do next.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Ross calling in.
Thanks for your show. I'm just wondering if we're watching or witnessing a legal system where what we thought was precedent is now going to be sort of cast away.
The reality is the question that you raise about the future and what are the implications when in fact the things we understood always to be bedrocks of our community, of our nation, are no longer that.
30
Amicus,
seconds.
a
Thank
law
you.
review, Saturday mornings from 9 to 11.
Welcome back to the Todd Allbaugh Show on the Civic Media Radio Network, where it is 8 before the hour of 4 o'clock. Getting used to these new times. New time clock, but it's all fine. Same old host, though. They haven't found anybody better. So, stay tuned. Top of the hour, CBS ABC News, followed by a check of weather and our great sports reporter, Mike Clemens, and then the Maggie Dawn Show, which was normally in the time slot we're in now. Maggie Dawn coming up from 4 until 6, followed by our friend Pete Schwaba and the great program Nightlight Entertainment. And Maggie's show is great as well. They're all great. So Maggie after us, then Pete Schwaba. A quick traffic update. Again, Highway 27 north of Hayward for our WBZH listeners in the North Woods. Highway 27 north of Hayward closed in both directions right now due to a crash there. Also, some of the roadways around Milwaukee, normal drive time traffic delays as well. Right now, we're talking with Matt Solomon of Cracked.com on the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Matt, we appreciate your insight on this. We were talking about the 50th anniversary show proper this year. Talk a little bit about I love gossip. I love Hollywood gossip. And some people were talking not so much about the show, but who did come?
That was one of the things that was driving a lot of our interest on our site was like, where was Dan Aykroyd? Where was Dana Carvey? Where was, why wasn't Chevy Chase on stage? Especially Dana Carvey was, he was almost like an honorary cast member in the early part of the season. He showed up like in 6 straight shows. And so for him not to be a no-show at the 50th was weird. Turns out he was sick. Dan Aykroyd seemed to want some sort of something that he wasn't given, and he used the occasion to promote his Crystal Head vodka on his social media. He kind of like live tweeted the show and like, hey, let's crack another vodka thanks to the great sketch on Saturday Night Live. It was very funny. So that was really interesting. It's just people, again, very difficult to please everyone.
People still care. People still care about these actors, these sketches, and things like that. It's been a part of a lot of our lives for decades.
Well, I think especially that original cast, I think people were interested in seeing them. And then, like you said, Dana Carvey was part of what if he's not on the Mount Rushmore of SNL, he's in the conversation for it. So, especially with those, people weren't necessarily like, oh, where's Rob Schneider? Where's Chris Kattan? But with some of those bigger names, both of those guys were in the audience as well.
Yeah.
But
855-752-4842. Let's go quickly to Mark in Prairie du Sac. Mark, if you can make it brief, you want to mention a couple of your favorite sketches on SNL over the years.
There was Dan Aykroyd and Lorraine Newman, I think, Bass-O-Matic.
Bass-O-Matic.
Bass-O-Matic. And then there was one where it was one of their commercials where it shows these guys scooping water out of some inappropriate pool, and then goes to a guy sniffing at his lady's nape of her neck, and then turning his head, looking at the bottom of his shoe, and says, "You don't wear it because it's good. You wear it because it's French." And those ones just kind of stick with me after all these years. I mean, because those ones are decades and decades ago. I mean, but Bass-O-Matic just always, whenever I catch a bass when I'm fishing, I think Bass-O-Matic. That's a good bass.
That is good bass. Aykroyd and Newman actually reprised that on the 40th anniversary show. They did that. They basically did that sketch as it was live on the 40th. So Aykroyd did get a chance to be part of celebrating his own legacy 10 years ago with that very sketch.
Couple minutes left, Matt. One of the things that for me, as just a person who works in media that loves media, I'm still in awe that it's still a live show, and they put this thing together on the fly right up until showtime, and just the production of it, to me, I just have great admiration and respect.
It's unbelievable. It will be interesting when Lorne retires, because it costs a lot of money to do what you just described. They have literally a cast of thousands of people behind the scenes making wigs and costumes and sets. It costs $4 million an episode in a time when late night is cutting back their budgets. And once Lorne goes, it'll be interesting to see if they're still allowed that. But and tight budgets just make people more creative too. So it could be fun.
Yeah, it's been a great ride so far. What was it? We're in April here. Maybe another 3 or 4 episodes left at most before the.
There's 3 left. There's 3 left. Quinta Brunson has been announced as the host for the next one. The other 2 have not been announced yet. I'll predict. I'll go to one of those online gambling sites and predict that Pedro Pascal is going to get the season ender. But
really, all right, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, he shows up on all of the anniversary stuff. He's got Last of Us is back. He's got his Fantastic Four out this summer. It just makes sense to me. He just killed it the first time he hosted. That's my prediction. We'll see if it comes true.
All right. Well, very good.
I think he gets the cleanup spot.
We always appreciate you taking time for us. You can see all of Matt's work at cracked.com. And he's also a great author with our friend CP. So check those novels out as well. We appreciate you being here, Matt. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
You bet, Todd. Okay.
All
Have
right.
a good
Thanks
one,
so
guys.
much, Matt. Matt Solomon from cracked.com. Mr. Zommers, great show today. We want to thank Trygve Olsen, Senior Advisor at the Lincoln Project, Joe Zepecki of Zepecki Communications, who is a candidate for the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. And as we just heard, Matt Solomon there from cracked.com. Got through the first show of the new time slot, and we're still alive. How about that, Summer?
It feels really weird. We'll get used to
But
it.
here we are. It's almost 4 o'clock. Stay tuned. The news is next, followed by Maggie Dawn and the Maggie Dawn Show. Whatever you're fighting for, whatever you believe in, do not give up. Keep banging your drum. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Your day will come. Keep banging on your drum, and they will hear you.
All right. Thanks, everybody on the stream. We appreciate you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Adios.